So it takes the computer.
Oh, it says live on Facebook.
Yeah, we are live on Facebook. It takes my computer a second to like catch up to itself. And we have a guest who wants to join us. And I'm going to hit record somewhere on here. Record to the cloud. All right. Hey, Facebook land. Welcome and thank you for joining us for another episode of Black Acupuncture Meet and Greet. And today we have a very special guest. I'm really super excited. So I am your friendly neighborhood pin lady. And as many of you know, this whole show is about getting the world an opportunity to get introduced. Sorry, I'm still like signing into all the things, getting the world introduced to being able to see melanated faces, right? Because we don't see a lot of African Americans in the acupuncture field. Not a lot of people in the BIPOC community are really aware of what's happening with traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. So today's guest is the fantabulous Dr. Love himself, Dr. Dexter Kendrick. Thank you so much for joining us today, Shug.
I appreciate you for having me. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yay. All right. And thank you, Vivian LaBelle. I love that picture. That's how I feel most days. So, hi, Ma. All right. So out there in Facebook land, if you have any questions, go ahead and start typing them in and then we'll get it all straight. I'm trying to find us on Facebook right now. My phone, there it is. Okay. My phone is pretending to cooperate. All right, so today we are going to be talking about acupuncture and astrology and spirituality. You guys had a lot of fun when we were having a conversation about Buddhism and Eastern spirituality and acupuncture. And so our guest, Kendrick, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what brought you to the beautiful world of Pinland?
Yeah, sure. Once again, I'm Dr. Dexter Kendrick, and I've been practicing acupuncture for about 10 years now. Actually, it was 10 years in October. I am practicing in the Maryland area of the United States. And prior to that, I was treating abroad in Europe, the Middle East, South and Central America, Alaska, and Northern Europe as well as, yeah. So
did you do the ships?
I was always interested in fascinating. I did. I was working on Holland America, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian cruise lines
nice.
for 4 years and some change right out of school. So I got a chance to meet some really amazing people and learn some things about the human body and conditions that acupuncture can effectively treat, which taught me so much. I will also say that I was always been interested in medicine. I was studying pre-med at university in Connecticut in my undergrad, and then I transitioned away from that and went to massage school. I knew that I wanted something a little bit more foundational with regard to how the body can heal itself. I still am fascinated with biomedicine, but I also understand that our body's ability to heal themselves is a conversation that kind of gets lost when we begin to compartmentalize our bodies into organ systems. So you're no longer a person, your hip pain, or you're no longer a person, your knee pain, or your rheumatoid arthritis. And I wanted to I love the dialogue around acupuncture, which allows us to treat human beings first. And their symptoms are really requests asking for some type of change. So it prompted me to move toward taking prerequisites for naturopathic medicine. Oops, hold up a second. My light killed. 1 second. Sorry, it
Mercury's supposed to be out of retrograde.
I know. Well, there's like a shadow period apparently that lasts a couple of days. But yeah, we should be good to go this week. So knock on wood. But anyway, yeah. So eventually, it's doing it again. Okay, 1 second. All right, here we go. So as I was saying, eventually acupuncture and never that.
Right. Well, wonderful. And where did you say you went to acupuncture school for all those who want to come to the pin side of life?
Sure. I graduated from Maryland University of Integrative Health in Laurel, Maryland, which I also teach at now. I'm lead supervising doctor of the clinical acupuncture interns in our clinic at the Natural Care Center. So if you ever come and visit one of our interns on a Tuesday, you may not work with me, but I'm behind the scenes making sure everything goes where it belongs and making sure people are where they need to be. And it's very rewarding to come back to my alma mater and be able to kind of guide our next generation of acupuncturists.
Oh, I remember good old clinic days at Bastille.
Yeah, yeah. Did you enjoy it?
Um, Bastille was a very interesting experience. I did enjoy being able to have clinic, and I had some very interesting experiences in the clinic, especially learning how to deal with difficult clients. I have to
Yeah.
tell you my HSV story one day. I had a
Okay.
client who came in with
Okay.
that, and it was fascinating. Anyway, so
Okay.
you went to the Maryland Institute of Health, previously Tayo Sophia, isn't that what it used to be called?
Previously,
Uh-oh.
Thai Sophia Institute, now Maryland University of Integrative Health. Yep.
Wonderful. And when did you leave there and start your pen practice?
I left there. I began needling bodies in 2010, but I left there to go abroad in 2013.
Wonderful. Well, I am so glad that you have joined us and that you had such marvelous experiences to share with us. So, other than wanting to treat the whole person, since you were doing pre med, what got you into acupuncture? Like, how did you end up on this side of the street?
Once again, I was studying natural medicine, always interested in medicine. When I went to Southwest College of Natural Medicine, naturopathic medicine, I was taking prerequisites. I was going to be entering their doctoral program to be a naturopathic doctor. And I was sitting in the break room where they kind of do their consults like we do in acupuncture school with our supervisors about treatments we want to provide. I was absolutely, I was bored out of my mind, to be honest. And there was a guy in the same clinic that they worked in, and he was going in and out of rooms. He looked busy, he looked active, his life looked like it mattered. And I'm not diminishing the work that I was observing. I'm speaking from my own experience. And if anybody knows me, I'm very blunt. But I was being bored out, I was bored out of my mind, and he looked busy. When I came back to the East Coast, because I was in Tempe, Arizona, I said, I need to look up acupuncture because what I saw was a lot of talking and not as much action as I would have liked in my day to day. And as a profession, I think it's important for us to know what level of speed of tempo of our day we need to feel vibrant, to feel valuable. And that's going to not allow us to fall asleep on the job. So when I came back, I began to look up the philosophies of Chinese medicine regarding the body as a whole person, regarding the body as a vessel for the spirit, regarding the central nervous system and pathways to healing, regarding shifts in our psychology and our mind state that can help patients notice a shift even in the first treatment with regard to an hour. Not as much talk is necessary as the body begins to wake up to itself and come back into alignment with its own healing processes. I said, this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
And I picked up a book by one of my mentors, Diane Connolly, and it's called Traditional Five Element Acupuncture. And it just kind of blew me away when we discuss how man is walking through each season, and staying in alignment with those seasons can really help us offset some of the unnecessary added drama of our lives. We're still going to have oopses that show up, but participating with nature is always a really good place to start.
Well, thank you for sharing, and I agree wholeheartedly. So many people don't necessarily know that acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine talk quite a bit about spirituality. In fact, it scares some people off in thinking that you have to change your spiritual outlook and whatever and what have you. You don't in order for acupuncture. But where did you begin to draw the parallels between acupuncture and astrology?
So astrology is actually mentioned in our Wandi Ne Jing Suen, and it is mentioned a couple different times about how man is really walking between heaven and earth, between birth and the grave, and how we are in relationship as reflections of nature. We are in a relationship with our environment. So astrology is in this dialogue. I've been a student and a practitioner of and a professional astrologer since 2001. So for what, 19, almost 20 years now. But finding out that this method of medicine also includes dialogues about how to treat patients in the treatment room. If we were to go back and pay attention to that, I believe it's chapter 26 of the Suen, but discussing the appropriate ways to needle patients under a new moon, the appropriate ways to needle patients under a full moon, the different planets that are associated with each of the different elements. And so it was really like learning in a supplemental language on a language that I had already understood. So I didn't have to, it wasn't a challenge for me at all. It was very, very fluid.
That is the benefit of having gone to a 5-element school as opposed to one that does more 8-channel theory. Like they talked about it and then they just kept right on moving.
Yeah, yeah,
We didn't
yeah.
stop there at all. You know, it was more about being able to pay attention to the seasons and the hour of the day, as well as the age of your patient, as opposed to being able to pay attention to the sun and the stars. So with that introduction going about, what do you have for us to our audience, whom is a mixed audience, right? We have students, we have lay people, we have acupuncturists. What do you have that you would like for your audience to take away for acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine and astrology today? Go for it.
You know, okay, I'm gonna kind of wing it. I didn't know if this was going to be like a Q&A or if people just kind of generally chit chat.
We're gonna chit chat. I'm gonna ask.
I think. Oh, good. Thank you. I appreciate you. I think that it's important for us to know that whenever you come in for a treatment with regard to acupuncture, and I can only really speak for myself, every acupuncturist is going to take the medicine in a direction that speaks to them. What speaks to me is treating a patient in the moment that they show up in the treatment room with whatever condition they're coming in with. Most of what I treat is pain, from hip pain, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, you know, sometimes swelling, etc. And there can be other chronic conditions that people get treated. But I think it's important for patients to understand that I'm always going to ask them how they're doing in this season. And I think it's super important. And I want to emphasize for those of us who are also practitioners and doctors of this medicine that I had to, when I first began to work on Holland America Cruise Line, they wanted to know, can you treat pain? You know, sometimes the 5-element dialogue sounds like we're sidestepping a direct route to a person's primary concern. And I would have to say that any practitioner that plans on being in business, such as myself, has to be able to address a patient's primary concern. So absolutely, we can treat pain. We recognize that coming into alignment with the season may be at a root cause of some sort. We always often talk about root causes of conditions or symptoms. But whenever a patient comes in, it's always my primary objective to address what is causing you discomfort first. And what that does, I have found, is it allows us to come into deeper rapport with each other. And once we get into rapport with each other, we've all been around somebody that we don't like too much, right? So our body starts to do physiological things that are out of our control, such as sweating, such as itching. Some people itch. Some people start to have gurgling in their stomach or become nauseous. And some people, their body temperature begins to rise, right?
Right, that's all the activation of the
right?
sympathetic nervous system.
Absolutely, right? This fight or flight system begins to kick in a defense mode. But when you meet, just like when you meet a new doctor, a new physician, you don't know this person. And so in order to come in, you really need to feel heard and seen. And one of the things that I always begin with is asking the patient how they're doing in this season. The season we're currently in, of course, is in autumn. And so then I begin to ask them what shows up differently for them in autumn. I begin to ask into their condition. And that's when we begin to devise a plan.
It is really thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of people don't realize or don't take the time to realize that their bodies do behave differently in the different seasons. And so what's different about your body in the fall? What's different about your body in the spring? What's different about your body in the winter? And what's different about your body in the summer? And are you aware of your habits and your coping mechanisms that you're using or not using when your body begins to change according to the season? So that is not something that a lot of people actually take the time to pay attention to. So thank you kindly for bringing that up. And yeah, we're in the fall, right? In the lung season, where we got to be worried about extra moisture, and we're moving quickly suddenly here in California. I don't know what it's like in Maryland, but the temperature just dropped. We're moving quickly towards the wintertime. And so being aware of how your body functions differently in the winter versus the fall, and different ways of being able to protect yourself and nourish yourself. Can you talk a little bit more about what you think is appropriate for each season?
Sure. So in the fall or in the autumn, the movement of the fall is a downward movement as we begin to retract our energy. The sap begins to go downward. Our libidos also have a tendency to go downward and take a bit of a dip after the height of summer, where we have been fruitful, perhaps, some of us, some more than others. So as we begin to kind of retract our energy, this is the energy what we consider to be metal. The metal season is also the season associated with the planet Venus, which means that we are supposed to be taking in the value of the year's harvest. all the way from the beginning of the year, which we would consider to be spring. Most calendars that are agricultural follow the agricultural calendar, saying that birth happens in springtime, which is kind of the beginning or offset. Some people say that it begins in winter, which is like the 0 point and the beginning, right? So it's the end and the beginning, whichever one you choose. But in autumn, the energy here is beginning to take our energy back, not to be so overly active, but to still be connecting with people who matter to us, but most of all, looking back over the year and seeing what has mattered to us. The autumn season, according to the agricultural calendar, I believe begins the first week in August between the 2nd and 3rd or 4th. And then winter begins like the first week in November. So the winter phase, I think it's also important when we're discussing with patients seasons, or we're discussing with ourselves the season. We don't wake up one morning and it feels and it's automatically another season. It's a phase. It begins to show up, right? The leaves didn't just start falling off the trees in September. There, you could have seen some brown or golden leaves on the ground even at the end of August. It's important for us to begin the process of creating a balance between the outer environment and the inner environment. If it's beginning to have a temperature drop in California or wherever you're located, today it was 75 here in the Northeast. So, you know, we can absolutely say that climate change is real. But ideally, as we're moving into away from the sun, the earth on this side of the world, the United States is moving away from the sun. This is a period of time where we absolutely want to create a balance. If it's chilly outside, you want to be eating foods that are a little bit warmer, and trying to stay away from boiling your foods too much because it can drain some of the yang or rising life-giving chi from it. Boiling foods is really ideally looked a little bit down upon as far as the energetic properties, especially when we move into cold seasons. We would typically recommend broiling or frying or baking, things that add yang energy, and especially to our vegetables as well. We really want to avoid an overuse of blanching or draining nutrients from our foods via boiling at this time.
I'm a fan of grilling in the middle of winter. People think that I'm crazy. I'm like, man, it is something about all that extra heat.
Black tea, if you, all forms of heat.
Are you still there?
I was going to say that, yes, can you hear me?
You froze there for a second on my end.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say that also for those who can stand caffeine, black tea or another yang herb would be dandelion leaf or root as a tea at this time, which has a bit of the balancing of the cold on the outside with regard to the heat on the inside. It has other properties too, which I absolutely love as well. But, you know,
I'm definitely a fan of my caffeine.
And see, I've had to kick it. I've had to step away from it. So,
you know, I do a lot of adaptogenic herbs to help keep my chi up, but like I don't function without my morning cup of caffeine. All will be right with the world once I pray to the coffee gods. Mm-hmm. All right, awesome. So you've given us some tips and tricks for the fall and some for the winter. Do you want to speak a little bit about spring and summer?
Sure. Well, of course, I'll go a little bit deeper into winter. Of course, in wintertime, we want to really nourish our kidneys. So we really want to emphasize how much rest we need. We don't have as much sunlight anyway. So that period of time is as closely as you can follow the sun as possible. You don't have to go to sleep, but it is ideal if you can begin to shut down from external stimulation, right? The kidney time is, and it's important for us to understand that each season gives birth to the season that follows it. So if we are overdoing it in summer and burning ourselves, a lot of times you'll find people have their summer flings and et cetera. Some people have a tendency to, you know, be going on vacation and just doing so much movement, which is appropriate for the fire season. But if you have not taken an opportunity to prepare for this next movement, which is retraction, then there can be challenges that show up in the fall, which can include lung and bronchial conditions, which we all have been seeing showing up just, you know, globally, of course, with our pandemic, et cetera. We really want to take care of our lungs at this time. Some foods that are also helpful are ginger and onion and garlic, which are generalized antivirals, excuse me, and antibiotics. But in the wintertime, we also want to continue to do things that nourish our kidneys. So things that are like, if you can stand seafood, sardines are helpful. Beef kidney, if you like that type of, I'm not into gizzards, but I will eat sardines.
Liver, also, dark colored foods of all varieties. Yeah, you got to do it. That's
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, perfect. So you can begin to do those things, and right, and nourishing the winter time of hibernation. Springtime is a season where we're supposed to be kind of raising with the sun, right? The sun's coming up earlier. We're supposed to be waking up early. We're supposed to be walking quick and briskly. Exercise is really an ideal opportunity for us to get into the power of springtime, and it's also associated with the planet Jupiter, which means we're supposed to expand. We know that the
Mhm.
energy of wood in Chinese medicine is an expansive, rising energy, so that's an energy. I want to reiterate that in wintertime, that's also associated with the planet Mercury, which is not only communication, but it's also taking in of information. And the wintertime is really for us to be listening. Anybody who understands Chinese medicine, yourself, of course, as well, understands that the orifice of the kidneys, which need nourished and taken care of in the wintertime, is the ears. So it's important for us to create silent time. And that's why I said when the sun sets, you don't have to turn out and stop communicating with everybody, but maybe we could turn off some of our devices, or maybe we could just have on a device and not so much light that's artificial. Let's begin to kind of listen to our body. When the wind down time comes around, that's when our body repairs itself.
I really
So I
thank
know
you
I
for
kind of
bringing
went backward
to
to
see.
winter. And
Yeah, well, no, I'm really glad that you brought that up because I'm always struggling with clients who want to do more stuff all of a sudden in the winter. And we have the New Year's Eve goals of I'm gonna go exercise. I'm like, not yet. Wait,
right,
just a little
right.
bit.
And according to the agricultural calendar, winter begins like the Chinese New Year's, like February 9th, like the first week of February. But that's a phase. We don't just go from 0 to 70, right?
Mhm.
It's really supposed to be a rolling in of a newness of energy following the photo period of the sun. It's important for me to also say that while Chinese medicine does not associate a planet with any of the elements, that the sun is our primary source of energy for all life on this planet. So it is important that we acknowledge its participation in our energy levels, which is why on rainy days you may feel a little less charged because we are solar powered. You may feel a little less charge on rainy or cloudy days than you do on sunny days. Even if you don't have anything to do, there's an energy behind it and a feeling of wanting to be active or get something done. And that's not a coincidence.
I agree. We are complicated houseplants. So
Absolutely.
right, we are very complicated houseplants with many, a variety of needs. So we've talked quite a bit about the fall. We've talked a little bit about the winter, and we've started to talk about the spring. You want to tell us a little bit more about the spring and how it's viewed from an astrological perspective and the different things that we should be paying attention to.
The spring or the summer?
Well, we can move on to summer. You touched on the spring, but I just like listening to you.
Oh, that's
Spring
fine.
stuff.
No, I'm happy to whatever you think would benefit the audience. Springtime I think is an opportune time for us to participate in this upward rising active movement. Spring is associated with our ligaments and our joints, so movement is important. Even for individuals who have limited mobility, it's a time to begin to practice other gentle movements such as Qigong or Tai Chi, or even yoga, which just allows you to sink into positions, which allow you to come into a greater level of agility and opens up spaces that have a tendency to contract during the fall and winter. When we're following the season, just like bears, we get back into fetal positions more often or more frequently. And into the springtime, we're unfold
Oh, wait a minute,
like
Shug, you
a
are
leaf,
breaking up.
typically come up first. Or, any.
Dr.
Am
Kendrick,
I okay? Yes,
you
I'm
are
here. Can
now.
you hear me?
There you go. All right.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know
All right.
if it's
It
breaking up on Facebook land, but it
it's
breaks up over here. Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going.
okay. Yeah, yeah, sure. Just let me know. So the flavor of the spring that we want to emphasize is, um, I want to say, I'll say sour, but not everybody can take acidity. So there's a number of different ways we can get our sour. We can get it from eating grapefruit. We can get it from eating pickles, which would reduce how much of the sourness, because cucumbers only going to absorb so much of the vinegar solution that they're in. We can get it from sauerkraut, which I cannot stand, but I still make it
What?
an opportunity. We can I don't fool with it. Don't put it on my plate. Don't
I'm
put it on my
from
plate.
Germany, so like I got a thing for the kraut, man. Like, pickles on the other
I can't.
hand,
I can't.
I'm not down.
Try.
Sweet pickles, sparing.
I really have given good try.
I like pickled okra. I can handle that.
But the important that sour lemon, but look about lemon. Okra is so mushy to me. Maybe I'm not eating these. Maybe I need to come to Sacramento and have you like cook some
Yeah.
of these dishes.
Let,
Because
let me
sometimes it
chat
depends
you
on
up.
who
Come
makes
on.
it. Uh, Okay, yeah, because I don't know. Maybe I'm not eating it right. But so also pickles, lemon is another food that can help. Kimchi, for those of you who like foods that are fermented or who enjoy kimchi. So those are some foods that we have a tendency to want to emphasize. It also helps our vision, since our vision is one of the things that is the orifice of the wood energy or element. So it's something, and also there's emotions associated with these different seasons, and there's a tendency for irritation or frustration or
Mhm.
anger. And if it's turned inward and not dispersed, since all sour foods have a dispersive astringent nature, right? It astringes an excess of or buildup of things, but we can have a tendency to see things that are irritated in the system, such as allergies around springtime. So there are some ways that we can begin to release irritation in the system vis-a-vis using some of the sour flavor. There's some other things that can be used as well, but I guess to keep it general.
Awesome.
And then
Awesome.
summer, did you want me to talk about summer or?
Yep, come on, keep going. We got summer and
Okay,
late.
so,
You're getting through them all. Like you're the first
uh,
person
uh,
who has taken the time to go through all 5 elements. I'm like, yes, do it.
okay, I appreciate it. I'm honored. Thank you. So summer is associated with the planet Mars. If you are astrologically inclined, you understand that Mars is mythologically known as the god of war, but mostly the god of action and assertiveness. So taking action, etc. Also the god of the libido and our sexuality. So in the summertime, it's no secret that most people talk about summertime romances, summertime flings, but it's also a season where we come into our maturity. But maturity in the sense that I understand it when it comes to it's really maturity in terms of sharing from the heart space. So it is associated also with the heart. And the flavor of summer is bitter. We never want to overdo it with any of these flavors, but some of the flavors that can help in summertime are caffeine or coffee. The coffee flavor is bitter. Dark chocolate, which can also be unsweetened. Um, and bitter herbs such as dandelion can also still be used, since it's also a bitter herb, and etc. But summer is a time of relaxation. So it is really the height of the year. And Chinese medicine, we recognize that whenever the outside is doing something, we always need to be doing the opposite in order to create balance and be in alignment. So when the height of summer comes, it's not really a time to go out and overbake yourself in the heat. It really is a time to make sure you're staying hydrated and begin to eat more cooling foods. Whereas in the winter, which is the opposite extreme, when it's really cold out in most places, it's an opportune time for us to begin to eat warmer foods. So the outer universe, outer space, which is our environment, and the inner space have to be in a harmony. So just emphasizing salads, tomatoes, things like cucumbers are nourishing. Things that have water in them. If for those of you who say, I don't like to drink water, cucumbers, tomatoes, celery, zucchini, those things have greater water content in them. They won't excuse you from not having water, but they can help. Also, we want to make sure we're avoiding excessive sugar during those times, because it will create what we call a cold environment inwardly in the summertime, and it can deplete our energy, which then makes us susceptible to summertime illnesses, which once again in 2020, everything will survive in the summertime, these days. So you really want to make sure you're taking care and nourishing yourself with regard to a balance of temperatures.
Awesome. So in Chinese medicine, we have 5 seasons, right? We don't just have summer, spring, winter, and fall. We have this weird 5th season that is called late summer, also possibly known as indigenous summer. I hate the word Indian, but we have that weird summertime period that's not quite the height of summer and not quite the fall of summer. And that belongs to my favorite organ, the spleen. Mine never works.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So late summer, which is also late summer and the transition between all seasons. So the period of time, like right now, when the weather is wonky, we're in between fall and winter. But late summer is coming after, when we start to get more precipitation, becomes a little bit more humid in most temperate areas, meaning they have multiple seasons. It's associated with Saturn, and Saturn is associated with learning lessons through growth and maturity, many times also learning things the hard way, but also associated with the element of lead, which is things become very heavy. So Earth is where we're beginning the process of pulling away from the overly joyous season of summer where we aren't really taking responsibility too seriously. It's also affectionately known as back to school season, right? Since back to school season really happens before school starts. It happens when you start seeing commercials for pens and notebooks and school clothes in August before school even begins. And it is an opportunity for us to begin to take in the energy of the season. It's also an opportune time for us to begin the process of slowing down a little bit more. It's also important for us to manage how much sweets we're taking in. You mentioned the spleen in Chinese medicine. The spleen is also associated with the pancreas, which is responsible for our metabolism of sugar. So if you're finding that you are having swelling in your hands and fingers, because precipitation can do that, right? Then you want to take a look at how much salt you're eating at the time. You may also want to take a look at how much sugar you're eating at the time, since we say those things can have a tendency in excess, not only to dampen the system, but to cause water retention or dampness. Since we call in Chinese medicine precipitation dampness, we call humidity dampness in the body. Once again, our body is always responsible for being in harmony with what's happening environmentally in the outside world. So that's a time when we really want to make sure we're eating foods that are still warm. We still want to have some foods that are cool, but as we move into damp weather, we want to make sure we're also having foods that are predominantly warm and not an excess of sugar or salt, because those things will weigh us down.
Absolutely.
Saturn is also associated with the element of oppression.
You rock, honey. Thank you so much for laying that out so clearly for all of our viewers. And so before we jump into like my next two questions that I have for Dr. Kendrick out there in Facebook land or here.
I wanted to make another point if I can.
Please make all the points.
Can I make one more point? I want to emphasize that that I'm only mentioning there's 5 elements. And yet in astrology, for those of you who may be students of astrology, you know that there are like at least 10 heavenly bodies that we recognize. The sun and the moon in Chinese medicine the moon is recognized as an active force, which indicates for a practitioner what type of needle action to do in the treatment room. So it's not associated with an element, it's a day-to-day rhythm. And for those of you taking my astrology class, you'll know that. But secondly, it's important to understand that we only discuss 5 planets because those are all the planets that were able to be seen by the ancient Chinese by the naked eye. So you can only see with the naked eye Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. You cannot see Uranus, you cannot see Neptune, you cannot see Pluto. Those were not discovered until 100 centuries later. So I just wanted to make sure we understood why it's still relevant and why these were chosen.
Cool. I did not know that. Thank you. Okay. So out there in Facebook land and here, Mama Labella, Vivian, I'm sorry, I suck at names. I'm really not that great at them. Dr. Kendrick has offered.
I know.
Dr. Kendrick has offered to do some readings for us. So if you guys want to ask Dr. Kendrick questions about the seasons and traditional Chinese medicine, or if you're interested in possibly getting a reading, now would be a really good time to start dropping those questions in for you.
Can I talk a little bit about that? Can I talk a little bit about that?
Please talk away and tell us about your show, Love 911.
Yeah, so I want to mention my show. I do a show every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, on Facebook and Instagram under Love 911 Tarot. You can follow me on Instagram at Love 911 Tarot or on Facebook at Love 911 Tarot with Dr. Kendrick. And every Tuesday night, I do a live psychic show. I kind of call it a psychic party. I am also a practicing professional psychic medium and astrologer, which I also do, and I have my own practice, which of course is called Love 911 Tarot. And so yeah, I invite everybody to come through. The readings are always free on Tuesday nights, and then of course I share information on how people can book with me. But it's a ton of fun, and what I enjoy about it most is that not only do I give sometimes some dietary recommendations, certainly not medical advice on Facebook, but some dietary recommendations if I'm reading someone, or things that can help, clear up chakras, clear up blockages. We discuss love life, love matters, money, career, health, etc. Sometimes pregnancy and fertility. I think you really have to see it to believe it. It's about 2 hours long every Tuesday night, and we have good music and a playlist. So yeah, I treat patients by day and supervise interns by day, and then at night I work as a psychic medium, and all of it is spiritual work. So for me, it is not. I don't find it there to be any gap in the conversation that I'm having. It's a bit of an umbrella, in fact.
That is awesome.
So yeah, if there are some questions this evening, I will preface it by saying I do prefer specific questions. Please try to veer away from yes or no questions, because they don't allow me to give an answer that is relevant and that has depth. It's better if you include the terms who, what, where, when, why in your question. And yeah,
And
other than that, also helps if you sign is. That's usually very helpful.
This is very helpful.
But it's not mandatory.
I'm waiting on Facebook to start typing in some questions for either a reading or questions about learning what to do with the body. But since Mama Labella is right here,
yes,
you get to
go. Hi guys. Hi.
Oh hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm very good. I'm very excited to be here. Actually, I'm a student in acupuncture, and I'm right now doing clinic for my first semester. And so it's going well. And actually, like, I was really intrigued because you're mixing acupuncture and astrology. And I really love astrology. Actually, I thought about like becoming an astrologer, and then I found out acupuncture. So I'm just curious, how do you mix these two like together? It's just super fascinating. Do you do a reading to your patients? Like, how do you do it?
Interestingly enough, a lot of my patients also get readings, but when I'm treating them with acupuncture, I just understand where the planets are and who's in front of me. And on every intake form, patients put their birthdays. So you automatically have at your
even
fingertips,
if you don't ask for
you understand. Even if you don't ask for it, because they volunteer that information, which allows you in your scope of practice to use all the tools at your disposal. I will say that as far as astrology is concerned, if you have a copy of the Su Wen, I would highly recommend you take a look at chapter 26, where Chi-Po begins to discuss the planetary movements, and especially when to do needling and what type of needling to do under a new and full moon. I'll share some of it here. So under a new moon, it is said that the body doesn't have the resources to heal itself, since the moon is not visible in the sky and it's the lowest point of our rhythmic cycle. And so that would be a time when it's ideal, given certain conditions, always with regard to who's in front of you, given certain conditions, to consider even technique needling or tonification, right? Because the individual doesn't have resources to overcome a condition. We can either drain or clear a condition that was excessive, or we can begin to allow the body to kind of do whatever it can do to maintain until the body has built up enough resources, such as under a full moon, to begin to clear a condition completely. So the opposite then becomes true under a full moon, in which case we would be advised to take into account who's in front of us, but to consider even technique or sedation technique for conditions that are excessive, if that makes sense. So treating conditions that are deficient under a new moon do excellent under a tonification technique, right? Because we're creating balance in the system, and all of that is in chapter 26.
Really?
I was
That's
surprised.
amazing.
I mean, this is
Because
often, isn't
they
it?
talk about Su Wen, but they never talked about like
they glance right over that in my education too. Like that, they didn't stop there. They didn't ask go.
I'm in
it wasn't
Montreal.
$200.
Yeah, I'm in Montreal. It's basically like TCM that we're learning. Like we touch, like the 5 elements, and I'm really like, I like the 5 elements. I want to learn more, but it's so different. Wow.
We didn't cover. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, we have some questions that are finally started coming through on Facebook.
I want to thank you so much for chiming in. I will say we also didn't cover it in my schooling at the time, but certainly in the core group class that I teach, we cover the moon. We cover the moon phases.
Excellent.
And we cover the
I'm going to follow you with your show. That definitely.
Yeah, follow my show.
It's a cool show. You'll enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank
All
you.
right, so a couple of questions coming in from Facebook land. Jennifer says, hi, I'm a Pisces, but she didn't actually have a question that went along with it. Because I'm a Pisces, read me. All right. And then Afia Rice, I'm sorry, I'm going to skip over the middle part of your name. As I just said, I suck at names. She says, do you train students for mediumship?
Very interesting question. I have a couple of different classes coming up where I will be, one of them will be mediumship. I have not set the date for that. I just finished a class, an intro to astrology, which was it ended up being a 4-week class where we covered the beginning of signs, planets, and houses. There will be other classes coming next month. There'll be a class on tea leaf reading. There'll be other classes on palmistry, hypnosis, and mediumship coming up in the future. So if you want to be kept in the loop, please check me out on Love 911 Tarot on Facebook and Instagram, because I always try to do really fun flyers to keep people informed about educational materials. So I will be teaching it. Short answer.
Short answer is it's coming. Mama.
It's coming.
Afia. All right. And then we have Jennifer Jackson. Jennifer, or again, who's this? She's a Pisces, just in case we. She says,
okay.
What element schools in California would you recommend? Do you know of any 5-element schools in California?
I'm not familiar with any 5-element schools in California. And I say that because I just don't know of any. I'm sorry. I don't. And I know that the restrictions, not restrictions, but the guidelines on being able to practice in California are way more TCM related. So even the one like Yao San University that I have visited before, that was TCM related. So I don't know of any 5-element on the East Coast, on the West Coast. I don't.
Yeah, I second what Dr. Kendrick is saying. In order to be able to practice in California, you do have to be able to pass the CALE, the California Acupuncture Licensing Exam, and it is very biomedical heavy, and you're not gonna get some of those things out of a 5-element school. It's a very different type of practice, and so in California they are required to make sure that you have the capacity to pass the CALE, and it is definitely an exam and a half. Boy, howdy.
But I will say, if you live in California and you're practicing acupuncture, you want to go to acupuncture school, go to acupuncture school in California. You will always have to have continuing education credits under your belt to keep your license active. There are tons of supplemental classes, lectures, and workshops on 5-element acupuncture. You can learn 5-element acupuncture as a supplement to your core education. I think it's important that people don't put themselves into a financial hole trying to move around the country unless it's feasible. But get with the education where you can, and then know that it's not the end. It's far from the end.
It's never the end. Like the stuff that I walked out of school with, half of it I've forgotten, and I've learned 3 times as much since I've left over the course of the last nearly 12 years now. So you always have the opportunity.
You find different passions for sure.
Definitely. You will find different passions. Like I didn't think I would ever care about microneedling or facial acupuncture or cosmetic acupuncture, and then I turned 40. I care a whole lot.
Well, you're clearly using it on yourself, and it works.
Thank you. So, I'll do some shameless self-promotion while we wait on a couple of more questions.
Sure.
Shameless self-promotion. If you go to Everyone's Place, which is my website, I am beginning to sell facial rollers and gua sha rollers. This one is made out of amethyst. It's banded amethyst and is positively absolutely gorgeous. So I have a variety of things that I am moving into because, taking care of yourself is a necessity. Taking care of yourself is revolutionary. But I want to help people bring this medicine into their homes. So we have people who are just signing on here. I'm a Pisces too, but I'd rather be a killer whale. All right, Emily, I don't know. Killer whale. All right. If you guys have any further questions for Dr. Kendrick, or if you were interested in the reading, you have to give him your sign and a specific question, preferably one that begins with a W, who, what, where, why kind of things. I think that's awesome. So yeah, acupuncture is thousands of years old, and there's many different facets and many different aspects to it, and you can't learn it all, right? You simply get interested in different things over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna try and find your Facebook. I'm gonna go back to your page and type in my details. I can go back to where you are, just so that because I keep saying it, but you know, sometimes when you say something, it doesn't. Sometimes
It
can be
doesn't
hard to
necessarily
find
stick.
and translate.
Once it's in the comments, it's forever.
Right.
Let's see.
Here we go. All right.
Okay, sorry, that was an Andre Nicotina reference. I'm sorry, Emily. I don't know who Andre Nicotina is, but I think I'm going to have to go look that up. All right, so we've covered quite a bit about how to take care of the body according to the seasons that are moving around. We've talked quite a bit about how to take care of the body according to the moon cycles, right? Being more tonifying and gentle with the body during the new moon, and being a little more aggressive with treatment and a little more moving with treatment during the full moon. And questions, here we come. I'm an Aries, here we go. We got a good question for you. Afia says, I am an Aries. How long should I stay at my current job? Any potential partnership? All right, Afia, you're gonna get a reading, Ma.
So that's
two
two
questions.
questions, but let's cover those really quickly. So her first question was, can you read the first question to me again?
She says, how long should I stay in my current job?
Yeah, so I'm seeing the number 2 over this current job. I'm curious if you've been there 2 years already. When you hit the 2-year mark, the last 2 years actually has been a period of relative growth for you, and since Saturn, the planet of growth and kind of wherever Saturn shows up, things kind of run cold. Looks like you've been a bit stuck and ready to move. This Sage card showing up here is the dialogue where you may not be able to see that, but there's a dialogue where, from what I'm seeing here, there seems to be some desire about getting some greater education or training. I'm seeing that showing up for you around March of next year, but it's not time to leave that space yet, even though it looks like you want to. And there seems to be some kind of a superior or management that's kind of getting on your nerves and kind of pushing you. The push is actually so that you will take some action and begin to think about how you want to better yourself. I don't see you leaving that position until after September of next year, if that, even though it looks like you want to. This impulsiveness of the Aries dialogue, but this page of coins is turned upside down here. The job market is about to shift. You want to hold tight to where you are right now because you're going to be in a safe space as some changes come down the pipe for us, all of us globally over the next year. So you want to stick and stay if you can until at least September. This Emperor card turned upside down and saying, I would avoid this. There's some kind of person in management that's on your nerves. I would avoid that individual as much as possible. The Emperor card sitting over top of you is saying that you have some things that you want to take care of. You can build a plan while you're waiting. And I think that's what's showing up here for you. This Sage is saying to use your higher mind and not be impatient with the change.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
And her second question is, any potential partnership? I'm not sure if she's talking about work or her love life. That wasn't terrible.
It's usually love. If somebody asks about work first and then says partnership too, they typically also want love life. Give me a second.
And then we're going to get Mama Labella's questions because she's here.
Okay, cool. Hey, what's up, Mama Labella? All right, let's see. All right, so as far as partnership is concerned, one of the things that I'm seeing here, there seems to be some kind of people who have had interest in you, but for whatever reason, you've not been available. Showing up this thing here, this card here, which is this Queen of Pentacles turned upside down, which is the inability to be available for commitment. Then this number 6 here of Wands is saying that you seem to be a bit indecisive about people who wanted your energy. And I'm seeing them exiting stage left. In fact, I'm seeing one person in particular seem to leave. Or seem to pulling away from you since the last month. But this number 10 of Wands here says you're more focused on where you're headed with regard to your career and making the most out of your life as far as your vocation is concerned. So from what I'm seeing here, it doesn't look like there is a partnership that's on the horizon. There's more like there's people who are interested in you, and really it's not your priority. This Sun card turned upside down is saying answering to other people at this time and sharing personal tidbits about your plan is really something that you're kind of allergic to. So when you have a shift, I do see you create a bit of an opening in February. Let me turn over one more card for you. The Strength card turned upside down and saying it just seems to be too much work for you right now. But February will tell. I'm seeing February as an option for you, but right now it just looks like at this time you're not as interested in the relationship work. I do think you're interested in dating. So in February you will have that, but I don't see a significant, solid something growing for you, at least until after February.
She says, thank you for the confirmation. Very accurate. All right, Mama Labella.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Questions from you. Tell Dr. Kendrick your sign and phrase your question with a W, please.
Is it me?
I feel like Miss Cleo
Yeah.
on this thing.
Okay. Actually, I'm an Aries too. so that's funny.
Aries in the
Okay.
house.
Yeah, Aries
Lots of
in
y'all
the
today.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be graduating this spring, spring 2021. So hopefully
Yeah.
becoming an acupuncturist. And just wondering, you know,
Yeah.
what do you see professionally? Should I stay where I am? Should I move? I don't know if you see any
You're
avenue.
going to be joining a practice that's already in the works. I think it seems to be some kind of either a friend or a colleague. Are you currently interning somewhere? There's a trust card turned upside down here.
Well, I'm in like doing clinic work. I don't know if that counts. But
Okay,
no.
yeah, well, that's fine. But there's some kind of opportunity that seems to come up for you in between July and August.
You,
There's
Is he
I'm
some
breaking
kind
up
of,
for
I don't
you
know if
too?
Yes,
it's
yes, he is.
some there's
Wait,
somebody
Dr.
else.
Kendrick. Dr. Kendrick, you were breaking up. Go back, sugar.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
So I was saying there seems to be between July and August, there seems to be some opportunity that shows up as far as like a partnership is concerned. It looks like you're invited. This world card says it becomes the beginning of the end of being a student and a movement into something else. I do see you begin to work at like another practice. I don't know if it's an internship or if you are supporting somebody else who's already working. But the information comes through a friend. So your next movement after graduation comes through a friend. This number 7 says you get offered a contract. So it doesn't look like
Nice.
you're working as an independent contractor in a space or that they hire you as an employee. So
Okay.
you are given some kind of a contract and a legal arrangement. It's an offer that happens between July and August. I don't know when your graduation is. So if so, it looks like there's a segue for you. When are you scheduled to graduate?
End of May.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So there'll be a period of time. This trust term that you're a little worried about the planning portion of what happens after school. You don't really have to worry about that. Keep your eyes and ears peeled. Somebody is going to be sharing some information with you between July and August, and you're going to be walking into a practice that's already up and running. At first,
Perfect.
it's some kind of a partnership. I don't know if somebody offers you a partnership or you join a partnership, but
Well,
there's 2 people at the practice.
nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Keep
do
me
you have
posted.
any like, yes, I will. Do you have any advice for like people starting in acupuncture? Like,
It's
what
funny
would
because that's the next question that we have
Oh.
here on Facebook.
Okay.
Perfect.
synchronicity?
Yeah. I'll say you said, do I have any advice for like new
Yeah.
acupuncturists in the field? I think it's important. You know, one of the first things that was asked of me when I interviewed for Holland America, and I went on to become the top earning acupuncturist on the Holland America cruise line in 2013, and second top earning in 2014 on Norwegian cruise line. When they hired me, they said, "Okay, you studied natural medicine, you studied acupuncture. Do you have an issue with money?" And of course, you know, since I wanted the job, I had to say no. But then when I had to sit across from people and tell them cruise ship prices, which are significantly higher than like the community acupuncture prices or even prices if you're taking insurance, one of the things I will say is to understand that acupuncture is a business. And while we have an altruistic ideal of helping people and being of service, we also have bills to pay. I told my students this last Tuesday. It's important that we begin to get comfortable with knowing our value and understanding our worth and understanding that we need a flat rate for how much we charge. Now, if you work with insurance, if you're in Canada, you have socialized medicine, it might be a little different. But in the United States, it's usually either an insurance conversation or they're paying cash out of pocket. And so understanding that and getting comfortable with saying our prices, and also making sure we don't lead with money. I think when you come out of school, you can be so nervous about how much it's going to cost that you lead with money.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you anything to talk to somebody and tell them whether you can help them. It doesn't cost anybody anything for you to sit across from them and tell them whether acupuncture is of benefit to their condition that's already making them uncomfortable. It costs you nothing to take a look at somebody's tongue and say, oh yeah, you should be coming to see me. And that costs you nothing to tell somebody how frequently they need to come to acupuncture to get the most benefit from your care. The cost dialogue is the last piece of the pie. And I think when I was beginning, I was so nervous about saying how much it was going to cost that I was making cost an issue. And I was bringing up how much it cost first to get it out of the way. And when people start to think you're only interested in their wallet, that's how they begin to perceive you. So first, try to avoid discussing cost until you can find out whether you can help their condition. So that would be my primary advice for new acupuncturists in the field.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Mm.
And then the second thing that I would like to bring up when it comes to being a new acupuncturist in the field is understanding that you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into, I have to go get a clinic, I need to have a treatment table, I have to have my TDP lamp. You don't have to have a traditional
No.
setup. You can make your practice absolutely anything that you want to. As we've seen here, Dr. Kendrick absolutely is mixing acupuncture and astrology, and that's fine, right? You can do that. You can be an acupuncturist who specializes and focuses on semi-precious stones. You can be a mobile acupuncturist, which is what I am, right? I don't have
Myself as well. Me too. Yeah.
I'm never going to have a clinic again. Having a clinic to me is like having a second mortgage, and I don't understand why people do this. And it's like, I can't have two houses. I can barely take care of the one that I have, right? You can be an acupuncturist who's into research. You can be an acupuncturist who works at a hospital. You can be an acupuncturist who does whatever, right? Whatever you feel like you want to do with this medicine that works for you, works for your chi, and works for your dreams and your overall wellness is what's important, because burnout is real. So don't set yourself up in a situation that is absolutely not maintainable. You can be an acupuncturist who focuses on essential oils. You can be an acupuncturist who only wants to be a dietitian. You can be an acupuncturist who wants to do whatever the heck it is that makes you happy.
Yeah.
That's important. So if you have a practice that makes you uncomfortable, if you have a practice that makes you tired, if you have a practice and you wish I could really do this thing instead, then you should be doing that, because otherwise you're going to be sick of practicing in a couple of years.
Yes,
Things
man,
avoid.
you are speaking to my heart, because I've been burnt out twice on acupuncture and have had to reinvent my relationship with it. I currently practice as a mobile acupuncturist, but I also do telehealth consults. And one of the things that we'll emphasize too is we're living in a new state of the art with regard to acupuncture medicine. And so the advent of telehealth has helped so many people with regard to keeping overhead low while assessing patients, while doing intake dialogues, and also by giving a free consultation to people whose business that you want. And I think it's important that there's also community acupuncture that's an option for some people, which also keeps overhead a bit low and creates a cash flow if you're interested in that. And I just think you're absolutely correct with that, Tanisha, by saying create the practice that you are going to be interested in getting out of bed and going to in the morning.
Right. So my best practice has been my practice here in California. And that's not to say that I'm not starting to feel some fatigue, but like it also, I'm just older, right? Like I may not look like I'm 42, working hard on 43 in February, but I'm just older. My kid has more needs and my chi just isn't as high. I had huge projects this year with bringing the Black Acupuncture Association into fruition. And the beautiful thing about COVID is that it's like, you know what? I don't have to go out all the time. We can get this medicine into people's homes. And that is a much better way of doing it, because I think it's important that clients have that language and have that literacy around their own bodies and the different things that they can do to take care of their own health. So Emily, if you feel like you don't quite know where to get in, where to fit in, then you make your own niche, because I assure you, when I keep telling people that I don't want an office, like to this 4 years, I've been in practice for over 4 years here in Sacramento on my own private practice. I left the community acupuncture clinic, which I think are wonderful. Thank you for bringing those up. People kept telling me, so, are you ready for a real office yet? Are you ready for a real practice yet? Are you ready to settle down yet? It's like, no, why do you think I don't have a real practice? I'm busy.
No,
See,
nah.
2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And when
yeah.
I didn't have
Community
overhead,
acupuncture
like, oh
I enjoyed community acupuncture. I hated it for the first 3 or 4 months that I did it at one of the practices I was working at, giving my time to in Baltimore. But it grew on me because you start to be able to think fast on your toes. You begin to understand the command points. You begin to understand the auricular acupuncture and how to address the network of the body. So for those who are even remotely curious about a community, either have a treatment experience or try it out. There's always people in places looking for people to fill in for acupuncturists who can't, who need off or on maternity leave. I would say check it out and not discount the skills you'll learn. But there's also ways now as acupuncturists, you can monetize your degree by writing journal articles, writing books, by doing speaking engagements. It is important to understand that the first time you begin to needle a body is actually in the student clinic. No one's putting that needle in but you. You are needling, even though it's under an apprenticeship, under somebody's license, it's you administering a treatment. You have case studies and information that can follow you for patients who've been with you for, your tenure as an intern, that begin the process of your professional practice. And please don't begin the dialogue about beginning to be an acupuncturist is not at graduation. It's when you first stick a needle in a person's body with a knowledge about how it works. So you're already starting with a toolbox of stories to share.
Right. And you can totally do that. And speaking is something that I have definitely taken up on this year. Is it's like I definitely get paid for my research and discussing acupuncture as a tool for helping to heal Black, Indigenous, and Brown communities here in the United States, and transgenerational trauma and racial battle fatigue and post-traumatic slave syndrome. So your practice is whatever you make it. So
Yes.
that is, I don't see any more questions coming in, and we're coming on time, and I don't want to be abusive of your time. I know that you're on the East Coast.
I'll say one last thing. This December, there is, I submitted a work that was just accepted by the Journal of Alternative Medicine, or JAM, on the dialogue around learning and teaching acupuncture in the time of telehealth and how it has remained relevant, how acupuncture has remained relevant in the advent of telehealth. So if you are a subscriber of JAM, or if you follow my page, I'll definitely be posting links to it. It's going to be coming out next month.
Excellent. That is awesome and
Yeah.
amazing. I'm gonna get some journal articles somewhere. I haven't paid him any attention. So before everyone walks away, I want to let you know that if you go over to blackacupuncturist.com, you will see that we are beginning to sell melanated ear seeds. This is called the Melanin Collection. So these are darker toned ear seeds for people who want to be able to have an inclusive bit of practice, an inclusive tool for their practice. We will be selling individual packs for people, and they're not that usual whatever color that is that we usually get in ear seeds. As you can see, some of these are quite dark for those of us who have a richer skin tone, right? In addition, if you head over, and you know, if you go ahead and get your membership there, Dr. Kendrick, you'll get a different price. Aha! Right? So you can see that these are very different in color, right? And so there are a more inclusive healing tool, because we do need to be bringing acupuncture into the BIPOC community, but it has to be more inclusive. Other fine is if you head over, like I said, over to Everyone's Place, which is my business page, you will begin to see some other things, including crystal ear seeds and wonderful vibrating gua sha sets, because relaxing the tension in your face, like if your face can't relax, your mind absolutely cannot follow. So keep following me and you will see lots of things coming up. Next week, I am hoping, I have been chasing this man for a couple of weeks. We're going to have Dr. Kokai Patterson, who is one of the other grandfathers of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. He was around in the time of the 1970s when Lincoln was just getting its start with Dr. Mitula Shakur and Mario Wexu. So if you want to hear some more interesting acupuncture history and how the African American portion of acupuncture history, then join us, I hope, next week with Dr. Kokai Patterson. Once again, out there in Facebook land, I appreciate you all for coming in every Sunday. We got a couple more Sundays left, and I'm going to take a break for the winter because my chi is getting low, y'all. Y'all understand? It's killing
All
me.
good. You got to take care of yourself for sure.
Thank you for coming and joining us here on Zoom. Mama Labella, Dr. Dexter, please do not hang up, and see you guys next Sunday, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Don't forget to follow me. I'll see you on Tuesday night. Love 911 Tarot, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. See everybody Tuesday.
See you Tuesday. All right, we're going to stop the recording and don't hang up. And I'm going to stop the Facebook Live.